let's get rolling here. This is going to be fun. We are talking about finding seller leads. And so I'm just opening up the PowerPoint here. And once again, I'm going to assume that you can see the PowerPoint. If you can't, please someone let me know so that I don't wander too deep into this presentation without bringing you guys along with me. But this is finding seller leads. Now on Monday, we were talking about buyer leads. And one of the things that we mentioned is that in the game of real estate, we recognize that buyers are the byproduct of marketing listings, right? If you want to get in the pathway of someone who wants to spend money in any market, then the most smart and leveraged way to do it is to control the thing that they want to spend their money on, and they'll just come and find you, right? If you don't control the item that they want to spend their money on, then you have to go out and find them yourself. And it takes more time, it takes more money, it's not as efficient. And so what we know is that by controlling the inventory, by controlling the listing inventory, you're going to have an opportunity to market those listings, and those listings are going to bring you the buyers. We don't spend a lot of time actually lead generating for buyers because we count on the listings to bring those to us. In the beginning though, when you don't have listings, the fastest pathway to get some business going is probably to start working with buyers. So that is why we started with buyers first, right? We talked a little bit about all the different places where you can get buyers and get in the pathway of a buyer opportunity. But now we're going to bring it back to sellers, because in the name of real estate, this is really how the game goes. And for those of you who are newer, and this is your first Ignite session, one of the things that we know is that success leaves clues, right? And so there's certain things that successful agents do every single day, and they don't mess around. They just kind of focus on growing their business, and they focus on running their business. And on the growing business side, we talk about generating leads for buyers and sellers, kind of making presentations to buyers and sellers and getting them to agree to work with you, previewing real estate, constantly being out there and getting the chance to tour through the homes that are for sale in your market so you know it firsthand. That gives you a better opportunity to determine whether it's a good fit for your buyers. It gives you a better understanding of the inventory so that you can help sellers price homes better. On the run the business side, right? They market their listings, they show houses, they negotiate contracts, they do a lot of transaction management, vendor management, they have goal setting, they do compliance and risk management, they attend trainings, they get all that stuff done in terms of coaching, and they manage their money. All this stuff is what it means to be a realtor, right? And one of the sessions that's coming, it may be the next one on Friday, is what does a day in the life look like for a successful real estate agent? But certainly today, what we're going to talk about is generating buyer and seller leads. That's going to be the focus. Mostly we're going to be focusing today on listings, right? Finding seller leads. So for starters, one of the things we need to understand is their motivation. But before we even get into motivation, I want to have a quick conversation with you about compliance. So there is this thing that's out there called the do not call list, right? And probably many of you are on it. And what the do not call list says is, well, I'll tell you my interpretation of what the do not call list says. What it says is salespeople have been really annoying, and that they just kind of kept hammering away at people, and at some point people said, look, enough, I'm done, you got to stop. And so they passed legislation that says, if you're on the do not call list, that people can't be called and solicited, right? And so a lot of times when we're looking for seller leads, we're going to be doing this by phone. A lot of times when we're looking for seller leads, we're going to be talking to people who are maybe for sale by owners. Maybe their house was on the market once before, it didn't sell and it expired. We have to pay attention to the do not call list, right? And so when people put themselves on the do not call list, they go on a registry and they're off limits, right? And I know that there are some coaches out there in the industry who say, you know what, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. Don't be a jerk, but call anyway. And if they complain, just tell me you apologize and move on and you won't do it again. That's not good enough. Keller Williams is part of a huge class action lawsuit, as is every company in the NRT network, which includes Coldwell Banker, ERA, Sotheby's. It includes RE/MAX. It's virtually every brokerage in the United States and every MLS in the United States is part of a class action lawsuit, because agents have not been adhering to the do not call list. The fine is $11,000 per incident if you've been found guilty, and I don't want anybody to have to deal with that. So one of the things I'm just going to ask you to do is when you're getting phone numbers, check the do not call list. Most of the services that provide phone numbers will scrub and let you know who's on the do not call list and who's not. But if they're on the do not call list, you can't call them. Now, let me qualify that for a second. Doesn't mean you can't call them. My mom is on the do not call list. I can't say to my mom, you know, Mom, I love you and I'd love to call you, but gosh, I'm a real estate broker and I just can't. You're on the do not call list, Mom. It's not personal. No, I mean, she would beat me. And so the do not call is simply, it doesn't say we can't call. It says we can't call and solicit their business. There are some carve outs if someone comes into an open house and they meet you and they provide their telephone information to you. If they respond to an ad that you've run, social media ad, or the sign call or something like that, then they've excluded themselves from that do not call list for a period of 6 months. But without beating the dead horse here, I just want you to understand that this is something that we do take seriously, and we're trying to do business the right way. And I don't want anybody to kind of get any problems with the do not call list. Any questions around that at all before we kind of get into the content from today? No? Okay, then off we go. Where are you going to find seller leads? I'm just going to throw that out there. And somebody can unmute themselves or they can throw it in chat. Where are places, if you wanted to get in the pathway of somebody looking to sell their home, what are some good channels? Anybody have some thoughts around where they'd look? I'd love to see some participation either in chat or unmute yourself and let's have a conversation. Because there's lots of places.
You can circle prospect around other listings.
Circle prospect. Let's talk about that for a second. What in fact is circle prospecting? That may be a term that not everybody's familiar with, Ariana.
Either just listed or just solds.
Well, okay, but what exactly is circle prospecting though?
Well, only one person can purchase a home, you know.
Well, right. The idea of circle prospecting would be if there's a real estate event that happens, maybe somebody listed a home, maybe somebody's closed on purchasing a home, that you kind of put a push pin in the map and you draw a circle around that pin, and everybody inside the circle is somebody that you're going to have a conversation with about that event.
You know,
right?
Would you be looking to sell your home?
Right. That's circle prospecting, and it's a common thing to do, adhering to the do not call list, please. Right. I see in chat, I see Juan say friends, you know, certainly friends, you know, probably the most logical place to start is with people who already know you, people who already trust you. We call that your database. And, you know, not everybody in your database do you have that kind of a relationship with. There's some people that will be in your database who you don't really even know yet. You'll find that perhaps there's people that you get their contact information, perhaps you purchase it or you have it on a list somewhere, or maybe they've responded to an ad that you've run and you don't really know who they are, but you have their contact information. You know, those folks are in your database. They're certainly not in what we would call your sphere of influence, right? You don't have any influence over those folks. But inside your database, there is probably a group of people that know you, they love you, they trust you, they want to help you. Don't be surprised if sometimes they need you to prove yourself a little bit. You know, I like to say sometimes that nobody wants to be the cardiac surgeon's very first bypass operation. It's like, whoa, wait, hold up, doc. You've never done this before? Man, I don't know if I want to be the first one, right? And so what happens is sometimes people who love you and they care about you and they want to see you be successful, they may kind of hesitate a little bit to use you or refer you until they know that they can trust that you're going to do a good job. And so one of the things that we've got to be doing when we're talking to people in our database is letting them know that even though you may not have real estate experience yet, you're connected to an organization that has lots and lots of supports, that they're not just hiring you, they're hiring your team. They're hiring your, you know, the support of your team leader and your coaches and your trainers and your partners like Kathy at Atlantic Home Loans and all of these folks, right? that it's kind of a group effort, right? And so I would encourage everybody to start with their database. And I kid around sometimes, and you've heard me say it in other Ignite classes. If you were ever, God forbid, in a bar fight and you needed to call a friend and say, hey, I need some help here, like, who would you call? Who has your back that even in the craziest situation, you know you can count on them, right? That's probably the person you start with. And the conversation is really, hey, I need your help here, right? Because I'm in real estate. I'm new. I've got a great team here. I'm learning how to do this. And, I need some help. Who do you know that is thinking about buying a home or selling a home within the next year that I can talk to, right? Start there. It's always really, really the best starting place is start with your database. And then there's this thing that we call the 10-4. And we talk about that in Ignite. And there's what the 10-4 is, if you're new to this course, is there's kind of 4 areas that we'd love you to do 10 things a day in. What does that mean? Well, area number 1 would be contacting people and having real estate related conversations, right? And contacting new people that are not yet in your database. Could you find a way to find 10 new people to talk to and have a real estate related conversation? Right. And so that's the first 10 that we'd love you to do every day. The second 10 would be talk to people that you already know. And they don't always have to be real estate conversations. They just are being out there, being in front of them, staying top of mind, making sure people remember that you're alive. I know that some of the very, very top agents in this industry make it a point every single day to call a certain number of people that are in their database and just say hello. It's not, who do you know that needs to buy or sell real estate? It's, hey, you know what? It's been a while since we've chatted. How are you doing? We did a lot of these care calls when COVID happened, not to generate business, but because we really do care about people. And we wanted to know, hey, how's everybody? Is everybody safe? Is everybody healthy? Is there anything that you need? Right? Those are the kinds of calls that keep you top of mind. And we should be making 10 of those a day. And whether you pick up the phone and you have that conversation and your lips are moving, or whether you do it through a text and your thumbs are moving, or you do it through a social media thing like a direct message on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, I don't really care, as long as it's a two-way exchange. What we're looking to do here is not just blast messages out to lots and lots of people. We're looking to have interaction. So it's 10 new people to talk to a day. It's 10 people that we already know a day. It's adding 10 people a day into your database. For those of you who are newer and are getting familiar with Command, we've got to be putting people into our Command database and then putting them on a system that we call a smart plan, which is that structures the interaction with them, continues to stay in touch with them, keeps us top of mind. We're looking to add 10 people a day. And I know that sometimes you may have a lot of names already and phone numbers and emails, and they're all in a big Excel spreadsheet. And you could just import like 40 or 50 or 150 all in one shot. And that's one way to do it. Although what I really want you to do is get into the rhythm of talking to 10 of those every day. Sometimes people build out their database in increments of 10. They just call 10 people, have those conversations and put them in. The next day they have 10 more conversations, they put them in. Whatever way you want to do it is fine, but we've got to get people into the database. And the last area of the 10-4 is preview property. You've got to know your product. You've got to get out. You've got to see it. You've got to see how the rooms flow. You've got to see what the neighborhood looks like. And we're going to ask you to preview 10 properties a week in person, but at least 10 a day online, right? So that's the daily 10-4. It's 4 key areas that you're going to focus on of speaking to people, putting them in your database, and preview an inventory. And that's a great source of leads when you're having these conversations, right? Another one, open houses. We really are pushing open houses hard in Ignite. We didn't always. In the new 2.0 version of Ignite, we're pushing open houses heavier than we did in the earlier versions of Ignite. And I think the reason for that is it's just the easiest pathway to get in front of people. And what we know is that people connect better when they connect in person. You know, the human body, the human brain, the human species is designed to respond to people differently when we're face-to-face than when we're just hearing a voice or just reading text. So try to get out and host open houses. And with COVID, that was hard. But open houses are beginning to happen again. If you have not got an open house scheduled for this weekend, then what I would say is this would be a good weekend just to go out and visit the open houses in your target market. You're going to want to preview that inventory anyway. Just visit the open houses. Don't interfere. This is another agent trying to conduct business that day. You don't want to linger around and kind of be a pain in the neck, but go out and see the houses and take note. How are people doing these open houses? Like, what do they have on site? Let them know that you're an agent, right? So that they don't try to spend too much time. That you just let them know that you're just there to see the home. But open houses are a great way to get in the pathway of people who are looking to sell their home and looking to buy a home. And then finally, referrals. Agent-to-agent referrals are a really good source of business. And so you start to think about, okay, how would I do that? Like, why would another agent want to refer business to me rather than service it themselves? Well, I think two things. One is, I think an agent who's in your marketplace would probably prefer to do the business themselves unless it was outside of their scope of expertise. I was not a commercial agent, and when I had opportunities to do commercial business, I knew that I wouldn't do it well. And so I was content to give it to a really expert commercial agent and take a referral fee for it, but let that agent do their thing and do it well and provide great service, right? But more importantly, there's people that are outside of our market that have opportunities that to refer business that is in our market, right? And so I want to spend a minute today, and I want to go into Command, and I want to talk about how to use Command to look at referral patterns and how you can and should build relationships with agents in other markets who might have an opportunity to do business here with you or to refer business here to you. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to get out of the PowerPoint and get into Command. So let me do that, and let me share that screen. This looks like Command. Can you tell me whether or not you're seeing my Command account? I hope you are, but I just want somebody to confirm that I was able to make the switch. Okay, yes. Terrific. So thanks, Bonnie. I appreciate that. So if you're new to Command, if you haven't seen it before, this is the database. And if you go to this big red KW up in the upper left-hand corner and click on it, it's going to open up this menu so you can see what's what. And what we're looking for is referrals here. So you click on the referrals tab, and what you're going to see at this page is the dashboard. It's going to show all the different people that you have a relationship with, other Keller Williams agents that you have a relationship with, so that you can refer business back and forth. This tab would be referrals that you've placed and what's the status of those. And I haven't placed any referrals. But this is what I want you to see. I want you to see this map. When you click on the map, it's going to open up this box here, this menu box, and see where it says production and there's a drop down. I want to go down to referral patterns, the one on the bottom. And what we're looking for here is when people are moving into our area, where are they coming from? Because it might make sense for me to have a relationship with somebody in that market. When people are leaving here, where are they going to? Because it might make sense for me to refer business to somebody if I had that relationship. So you click on referral patterns and it takes you to a map. Now, I'm logged into my Command through the Ridgewood account. Keller Williams Bergen Partners is 5 offices. I have 5 essentially different ways to get into Command. Right now I'm logged in as Ridgewood, so it's defaulted to Ridgewood here. But you can change this in the search box. I live in Westfield, so let's put Westfield up here. You'll start to type it in and you're going to see this is powered by Google Maps. So pick the right Westfield. There's apparently a bunch of them. I'm going to pick Westfield, New Jersey, and the patterns are going to change. Now, what I want you to see here, this little button right now is defaulting to where are referrals most commonly sent. And when we look at sent referrals, what we're seeing here is in this right-hand side, most of the Westfield referrals are sent to agents in Summit. And then the second is Jersey City. And then the third is Carlsbad, California. Who'd have thunk it? And then Upper Montclair, and then San Diego, California. If I wanted to refer business of people that I knew that were leaving Westfield, this is what the data shows is the most common place that they're headed to. Now, a couple things. This data is based on Keller Williams transactions only. This is not data that's aggregated any other way. This is based on when we do a deal and we put that deal into command and we close that deal in command, it knows where that person resides and where that person is moving to, because that's all in command. And so this data is command data. And as we grow and as we use this tool more and more, this data is going to become more and more robust, right? But be clear that this is not census data. This is not data that's aggregated any other way. It's only based on the transactions of the agents using command at the moment. However, I want to go back. This is where they're going to, if I want to get listing opportunities, right? This is where they're coming from, right? This is where I would get a buyer opportunity. People who are looking to buy in Westfield, where are they coming from? And so you look and you start to see, number one, they're coming from Summit. Number two, they're coming from New York City. Number three, they're coming from Hoboken. Number four, Jackson, New Jersey. Who'd have thunk it? Number five, Snellville, Georgia. Never heard of it, right? So this works for both buyer and seller leads to build out these relationships. You know, when we talked last time on Monday about finding buyer leads, this would be great partnerships to build. And so here's what I would do. Here's how you do it. If I am looking to build a relationship with somebody in a target market, and let's just look at it here. I'm going to go right to Snellville because I said I don't know anything about Snellville. What I'm going to do is this. I know that 2% of the deals are going there. I want to have somebody to refer it to so I can get referral income. Who would that be? Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back here to this drop down where it says referral patterns. I'm going to change that back to production. I want to see who are the agents doing business where. I'm going to go back to the map. I'm going to type in Snellville. Now, I don't know. Snellville, Georgia is here. It might be so small that we don't have referral patterns, that we don't have a lot of agents in here yet. But look at this. When I hit Snellville, I start to see it's right here. It looks like it's, I'm not sure. Here's Decatur, Georgia. So yeah, so this is about where it is, right? So I go to Snellville, and each one of these little bubbles represents clusters of agents. Maybe I'll pick this one. And what I'm going to do is it's going to put in the right-hand menu, here's the agents doing the Snellville business. Now, again, I know that this is a looking for listing leads classes, but I just want to show you how this tool works, right? If I was looking and Snellville was people leaving Westfield, where are they going to, right? They're going to Snellville. So the people that are going to Snellville are going to need to buy a house. I'm not looking for a strong listing agent there. I'm looking for a good buyer's agent, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here. I'm going to see I got 495 agents that are in that market. I'm going to go to this sort, and I'm going to sort. You see how you can sort by first name, last name, all these different names. I'm going to look for people who've done a lot of buyer side business because I'm referring somebody who's going to buy in that market. I'm going to click that name. It's going to relist this. Now here's Janice, and here's David, and now I still have 495. Maybe I'm going to go into this sort here, and I'm going to say, you know what? I want somebody who's a rock star. I want somebody who's closing at least one buyer side a month. That's 12 buyer sides a year. We're going to put 12 here in the search. That if you're not doing at least 12 a year, then I'm not going to look at you. We're going to apply that filter, and what do we find? Now we find that list has nobody. Okay, maybe that was too tight of a list. Let's go back. Let's make it, how about 6? We're going to apply that filter. And now I've got 2 agents. I've got Robert, I've got Amanda, and maybe I want to look and see something about these guys. I'm going to click on Robert's name, and I get to their page, and I see, you know what? He's closed 66 units, 20 listings, 46 buyers. I can read his bio. Hey, you know what? He may be a good person for me to build a relationship with. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here to this page here and say, you know what, Robert, I'm going to click this button, which says, invite Robert into my network. And I'm going to send him an email, and you can put a personal note in here that says something like, hey, Robert, I saw that you do a lot of business with buyers in Snellville. I know, interestingly enough, that there's a lot of folks who leave my town who come into your area. I want to talk to you to see if I have an opportunity for you Would you be open to it? And you send that email to him and you put him in your network, right? So this tool, this migration pattern tool is a really good one to think about. How am I going to just find another way to find leads, right? If I'm looking for a listing lead, right, then, I may look for a different group of people. I'm going to look at people coming into the area, going out of the area. What do those relationships look like? Spend some time with this, guys, and start to build out these relationships with agents in these complementary markets that make sense for the market that you're in, right? Any questions around that at all? This is going to be recorded. You can come back. Now, again, I kind of backed into this. I should have probably talked about this more Monday, because, they may or may not necessarily be the strongest places to find listing leads. Now, here's what I would say. If Robert Martinez in Snellville, Georgia, if people go down to Georgia and they start poking around and they're going out seeing houses with Robert, and they say they want to buy one here, but they have to sell their house first, then if I have that relationship with Robert, he's going to give me a call and say, hey, Hal, I've got a buyer who's looking for a property and they've got to sell their house in your market. Can you talk to them about listing it, and I'll give you a referral fee, right? This is a way to generate listing leads. However, one of the things I find is it's probably a better tool at the moment to find buyer leads. Where are people moving into your neighborhood from, and who are the agents who are handling the sale of their property in their sending market? But a really good tool to use. Get familiar with it, get comfortable with it, and use it. I think what you're going to find is you're going to find business there if you poke around and spend some time in command. Okay. Back in the PowerPoint. I hope you guys are back with me. So we've got to get these leads and we've got to qualify them. Like, what does qualifying mean? Well, we've got to determine, are they ready, willing, and able for us to meet with them, right? There's plenty of folks who are potentially interested in selling, but they're not ready quite yet. And so how we interact with them, what we say, how we follow up is going to be different depending on how quickly they're intending to take action. If I met someone today who said to me, you know what, we're going to sell my house as soon as my daughter graduates high school, and she's a rising senior, and it is July 21st, then I know that we got a whole academic year before they're really ready to put their house on the market. Is it time for me to go on a listing appointment? No, not yet. Would it be time for me to put them in my database and put them in command as an opportunity that I should stay close to? Yes, it is, right? I want to stay in touch. And maybe over the course of the next few months, I'd have conversations with them about things they can do to get their house ready, to get the most money at sale. Maybe I would have opportunities to send them some information about what's going on in the market right now with home prices, so they have a sense of what the values are when the time comes for us to list. But we need to have a systematic way of determining, are you ready? Are you willing? Are you able to do this now? And if not, when? And then put them into our database and follow up differently. So we ask a lot of questions, right? There's a lot of connecting questions. Remember when you studied, English Lit or whatever it was, where you learn how to write and you have the who, what, where, when, why questions, right? And how. These are just kind of how you start to think about, how am I going to build a relationship and ask what I need to know to find out? Are you ready, willing, and able, right? Who? If you could tell me a little bit about yourself, right? We use the acronym FORD, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. When we get people to talk about those four things, we start to build relationship, right? What questions? What are you looking for? What do you want to do? Where questions? Where would you like to buy? Where's your home currently? Why questions? Why are you moving? When questions? When would you like to be there? When would you like to do this? How question? How do you plan to do this, right? So you start to sketch out lots of different questions so that you kind of have them ready to go. You know where you're going to take this conversation. You know what you're trying to uncover. Just a couple things I would throw out there with these kinds of questions. Everybody familiar with the idea of open-ended versus closed-ended questions? Can anybody sort of unmute while I take a sip of water and tell me the difference between those two?
Well, close-ended questions, you're going to get a yes or no answer. With the open-ended question, you're kind of you're digging deeper a little bit. and getting
Yeah,
more.
and it's not always a yes/no answer, but you're not going to expand the conversation. Who is frequently a closed-ended question. Who did that? Bob did that. Nothing else to say, right? Um, so we want to ask questions that expand the conversation. Questions like what? Questions like when? Questions like how? They kind of open up more conversation. You know, where do you want to go? I want to go to Florida. Boom, nothing else to say. That's a little close-ended, right? Why questions, and ultimately the answer to why is at the heart of motivation. We want to understand people's motivation. But one of the things, just from a neurolinguistic standpoint, is if you don't have a relationship with someone, the question of why sometimes puts people in a defensive mode. Why are you moving? None of your damn business why I'm moving. Do you want to list my house or don't you want to list my house, right? A better question sometimes, if you don't have a relationship, is maybe a what question. What's happening right now in your life that causes you to need to sell your home, right? Because now I can tell you without feeling sort of put on the spot why sometimes does that. So just be conscious of that. But we've got to ask clarifying questions. And once we ask the right questions, then we've got to have a systematic way of saying, okay, are you ready to take action now? If not, when? And we should have a ranking system. You know, I don't care how your ranking system works. You can call it A, B, C. You can call it 1, 2, 3. You can call it green, yellow, red, whatever works for you. But you have to have a system so that you can put people in the right buckets. And a common system, what we have here in Ignite is that if somebody's ready, willing, and able to do business with you within 14 days, then they would be an A lead. They would be a hot lead, right? You at that point would probably want to stay in touch every single day, right? Follow up, follow up, follow up. If they're not ready to act that quickly, you might call them a B lead. And in this definition, a B lead is somebody who's ready, willing, and able to do business in 15 to 60 days. I'm going to put them in my database. I'm going to call every couple of days, but they certainly don't need to hear from me every day. That's a little bit too much, right? And then maybe I've got a different scheme that I call a C lead, where they're ready, willing, and able to do business. They're at least 2 months out. You know, I'm going to put them into the database. I'm going to stay in touch, but I'm not going to stay in touch nearly as closely as I would have if they were classified differently. Now, these windows, you get to decide for yourself what that time frame looks like. I'm going to be honest. For me, I would call you an A lead if you were ready to take action within 30 days. I didn't need 2 weeks. I opened it up a little bit. 30 days, you're an A lead for me. For me, 31 days to kind of 90 days was a B lead, and anything beyond 90 days, but within a year. To me, that's how I classified my leads as C leads. And the follow-up is different, right? You get to decide. I think the thing that drives that decision is how busy are you, right? The busier you are, the tighter that window is going to be an A lead, because if you're an A lead, I'm going to be in touch with you every day. And if I'm really busy, I can't be in touch with a lot of people every day. And so I'm only going to be an A lead if you're 2 weeks. That makes sense if you're super busy. If not, you might expand that out. But you need a system is what we're talking about here. And when you put them into command, and you put them into the opportunities section of command, right, which is the part of command that sort of says, here are people that I believe are going to transact business within this time frame, within whatever for me, it was a year. And then I'm going to put them in command, and I'm going to classify them as A, B, or C so that you can follow up according to your plan, right? So we're not going to do a real play right now. If we were in a classroom setting, we would actually practice qualifying. And if we had more time, I'd break you into breakout rooms and we would pair up and we would actually practice this. But we don't have the time to do that today. But what I want to take you to is, well, hold that thought. I'm going to bring you to the lead sheet in a second. Once we get people into that system and we've qualified and we've determined that it's really an A lead, it's really time to get together and have a conversation about listing your home, then we've got to ask for the appointment. You'd be surprised how many agents wait for the seller to take the lead there. You know, if you've asked the right questions and you've determined their time frame and you've determined their motivation and they hit all the high notes for ready, willing, and able as you're going to define it, then you need to ask for the appointment. Don't wait for them, because the likelihood is they're not going to, right? So we've got to ask for the appointment. And just lead conversion in general, There's three goals that we want to have when we're trying to convert a lead and we're talking to somebody about real estate. Is it time for you and I to meet? If not, is there someone in your world that you know of that would benefit from having a conversation with me, and we ask for a referral? And if there's nobody that meets that definition, then is there a reason why you and I can stay in touch? Because what I really want to do above all is I want to put you into my database, and I want to stay in touch over time, and I want to nurture this relationship over time so that at the point when you are ready, at the point that you do know someone, you're going to think of me first. And that is what I want. That's the kind of community that I'm trying to build inside my database. Think of your database as a community as much as a piece of software. Think of it as a community of real people with real dreams and real challenges and real lives. And we're just trying to be a part of their life. And the hope would be that when they need the service that we provide, if we're a part of their life and we're top of mind, they're going to use us, right? So, qualifying leads. We've got to qualify for the motivation. We've got to position ourselves as the expert. We've got to win this listing, and we've got to allow the price of the home to sell for the most amount of money in the shortest frame of time. What we're really trying to do is, are we going to find people who are willing to list their home for market value? Are we willing to find people who are willing to do what it takes to have success? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, today, our market is so topsy-turvy because there's so much demand. Kathy talked about 30-year mortgage loans below 3%. Guys, I used to say this time last year, and some of you have been in classes with me, Ariana, I know you've heard me say this before, that when the interest rates were in the mid 3s to 4 and buyers kept saying, I'm going to wait until they get under 3, what I said was, don't wait for that. It's not going to happen. It would take a calamity like a world war before the economy would be hit in such a way that interest rates would come down that low. Who knew that a pandemic was happening? That was coming. That's the calamity that I was saying, please don't root for. And nobody did. But the reason why interest rates are so low right now is because there's a worldwide pandemic. And in order to keep the economy moving, we've got to make money cheap enough that people can borrow and spend. Once the world gets to some semblance of normal again, these rates are gone. And they should be gone. Most economists believe that the place where the 30-year mortgage rate should be, were it not for the unusual position we're in right now, it's probably in the mid-5s, right? So my point is, when there's this much demand, you don't really have to work that hard as a seller to have a great outcome. It's like you put a house out there and suddenly there's like a feeding frenzy of buyers. But in a normal market, we've got to make sure that people are prepared to do what it takes to get their home positioned properly, to stage it properly, and all the different things that will get a home sold, right? We've got to qualify and set the right expectations, not only that they have the right expectations of what the market conditions are, but do they have the right expectations of what the services that I'm going to provide are, right? And so we go through this whole pre-qualifying process, and there's a questionnaire that exists in your toolkit. So if you guys are newer and this is your first Ignite session, when you go to KW University and you go into the course button for Ignite 2.0, when you get there, there is the downloads. All the downloads for every one of these sessions is there, right? All the materials are there, but there's a toolkit there that has lots of different tools for you to use. And if you guys don't know how to do that, if you're newer, this is your first time, just reach out to me. I'll jump on a Zoom call with you. I'll show you how to find that stuff. But what I want to show you right now is in the toolkit, there's something that we call a pre-listing questionnaire. And I've pulled it up on my screen so you can see it. And it just kind of guides that set of questions, right? It has a place for their name. What's the seller's name? What's their email? Where do they live? What's the date of the appointment, time, location, etc. And then there's just a series of questions that you're going to start to ask to really determine, is it time? Are you ready? How have you heard about me is a great question, because I want to know what part of my marketing attracted you. I want to replicate that. Whatever's working, I want to do more of. Where are you moving to? What's motivating you to go there, right? What we want to make sure of is when we're asking questions, we use this technique that we call going 3 deep, meaning I want to make sure that I ask a question, and when I get an answer, I don't want to change topic to a new question. I want to take it a little bit deeper. So it sounds like this. Where are you moving to? Well, I'm moving to Florida. Instead of saying, when do you want to be there, which is a new topic, I want to ask, so what's motivating you to go to Florida? Well, truth be told, my parents are in Florida, and they're getting up in years, and I'm so far away that if anything ever happened to them, it's just too far for me to be responsive, and I just want to get closer to them. Okay. Now I understand what the motivation is. You're concerned about your mom and dad. You want to get closer to them, so if there was an emergency, you could respond quickly. The thing we understand about motivation is human beings are driven into action based on emotion. So we say logic gets you to think, but it's emotion that gets you to act. And what we want to do is we want to ask questions so that we can get deep enough to figure out what's the emotional trigger that's causing this action of selling your home. People don't sell their house just for no reason, unless they're an investor. But even then, the reason is to get cash or maybe to take a loss, but it's an investment reason, right? But the point is, go deeper, right? We tend to water ski across the surface by asking new question. Where are you going to? When do you want to be there? How much do you think you want to spend? Blah, blah, blah. All these new topics, and we don't really have a deep understanding of anything. This is going to help you go deeper, right? How soon do you need to be there? I love this question around motivation. If I was able to sell your home within the next 30 days, would that create a problem for you? Because you'd be surprised how many people say, yeah, hold up. I want to sell my house, but I'm not that ready. I mean, I need more time. Okay. The other thing I like about that question is it implants the notion that I'm going to have success quickly. We're not going to fool around here. My expectation, if I price the home properly, is that you should be under contract within 30 days. And all of the data supports that. If you've priced the home accurately for the market that you're in, you should expect to have an accepted offer within 21 to 28 days. That's what I'm expecting. And if I do my job, does that create any problems for you, right? And so take a look at this lead sheet, right? There's a couple of pages. Actually, it's just this one page, right? Will all the decision makers be there when we meet? Do you have any questions before me? Use this lead sheet that we call the pre-listing questionnaire as a way to just to kind of frame out those questions so you ask all the right ones, okay? I'm going to jump back into the PowerPoint here in the interest of time. We're going to kind of motor along. We don't have time to role play this. However, one of the things I will tell you is you'll start to see on the calendar that I am putting time blocks to do practice. And what we are going to do is get into a big Zoom room, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to do. You're going to have the scripts that we're going to practice, or this afternoon at 2 o'clock, we're going to practice the listing presentation, the one that I gave you on Monday. So if you're planning on logging in at 2 o'clock, have that printed out, the one with the script in it. If you don't have that, I will post it into the Zoom room so you can download it. But we're actually going to get into the Zoom room, and we're going to break out into groups of 2. And we're going to spend 20 minutes or 30 minutes just actually practicing, because, you play the way you practice. And if you haven't practiced, you're not going to play very good. So we're going to see more of that. Even though I don't have the time in this Ignite session, if we were back in the classroom environment, Ignite would be a 3-hour class. It's a 1-hour class. So we're deferring the role play into other time blocks, but look for those, be a part of those. The listing presentation itself, you can go into Command and you can download. I would tell you right now that if you're newer and you've never done one before, I'm going to ask you to kind of rely on the one that I gave you the other day, the one with the script in it. I told you when I gave that to you that it is not the way you're going to do a listing consultation a year from now or 5 years from now. But if you had to do one today, it's what you would do, right? And so what I'm going to ask you to do is take a look at that, jump into the practice session at 2 o'clock today, but know that you can go into Command and you can download and you can customize a much prettier version, a nicer listing presentation. And then based on the scripts that you've practiced with the one we're going to do today, you'll know a little bit more about what to say when you get to different parts of the consultation. And then when we get to August, we're going to teach the course Win with Sellers. It is a 6-session course where I'm going to take you into a different consultation model entirely. This is the highest level of doing this. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through step by step, sequence by sequence. What do you do first? What do you do second, et cetera, et cetera. And when you really have that consultation model down, then you're really, 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 working at a high level. But you got to start where you got to start. You got to be able to crawl before you can walk, and you got to be able to walk before you can run. So I'm not expecting you, if you're newer, to be able to do that yet. I'm expecting you to learn and to grow and to get there. But we're going to do the one with the script. Emily, you put in the chat box. Can you please download the one from Monday? I was not able to attend. Here's what I'm going to do, Emily. Do me a favor, and anybody who wants a copy of that, shoot me an email real fast. My name, halbenz@kw.com, and I will email it back to you, and then you'll have it when you jump in. All right?
Thank you.
All right, cool. So we're going to practice the listing presentation. We're going to do that today at 2:00. And look, practice makes perfect, they say. But I'm going to tell you that practice doesn't always make perfect, because if you're practicing it wrong, it ain't perfect. If you're practicing something with bad form, bad technique, you're going to learn bad habits. It's perfect practice that makes perfect, which means that you have to have practice in an environment where you can kind of get feedback in terms of, am I doing it right? Which means you kind of have to be willing to practice in an environment where you're willing to do it wrong. Which means you have to be in a practice environment that's safe enough that you can take risks, that you can make mistakes, and you can kind of get some corrective advice, and it doesn't feel like criticism, right? Nobody wants to be in a practice environment where they're getting screamed at and yelled at all the time. Although I do know that some of the elite athletes will tell you that, some of their coaches are some of the most belligerent and hostile folks on the planet, and yet they would never want to coach with anyone else because they believe that coach really has their best interests at heart. I ain't going to be screaming at anybody, but I can tell you this much. We've got to practice, we've got to get feedback, and we've got to make this a core of what we do all the time. All the time. You can't wait until you've got an opportunity to begin to practice. There's a saying that I love that says, luck is what happens when opportunity meets preparation. Well, there's another saying that sort of talks about how, we don't always see opportunity because we're not prepared to see it. When you're practiced and when you're skilled, you're ready to recognize the opportunity faster and you're ready to jump on it. So take advantage of these practice sessions that are going to be coming up. One of them is going to be today. You'll see more and more practice sessions showing up in the calendars throughout the rest of the summer so that we can practice not only the pre-qualifying questionnaire, we can practice going through the contract with people and speaking about it and talking about it. We can practice the listing consultation. We can practice all the buyer's consultation. Lots of practice is coming. All right. So it is now 11:59. I'm going to have to tie this up with a bow and ask for ahas. If you're brand new, we always like to end every class by asking people to say, hey, is there anything that's an aha for you? What do we mean? Has your thinking changed about anything? Is there anything that you feel differently about, or any behaviors that you think you're going to take different actions based on things that you learned today, or any tools or models or systems that you're going to use? I always like to close this out by asking to clear this room a little bit with one or two people of any kind of ahas that they heard today. So I'm going to stop talking, take a sip of water, and listen for some ahas. You can either unmute or put it in chat. Sandra, again, I'm going to ask you to, I see you're in your chat there, just shoot me an email. The easiest way for me to do it is to shoot me an email and I send it right back to you. I think it's on the YouTube page. Christina said, what would be on the YouTube page? I don't think I think that session is on the YouTube channel, but the actual handout isn't there, I don't think, but double check it. Anyway, any ahas, anybody? Don't assume sellers will call you when they're ready. Julia, amen. Someone else is going to get there before that, for sure. Don't wait for it. There's a country song, and believe it or not, I'm actually a country music guy. And I don't remember who the artist is, but he talks about kind of the girl that he loved, and he suddenly got invited to her wedding, and he just kind of wasted it. And he always thought that they would be together, and he blew it because he didn't ask, and somebody else got there first, right? Anyway, don't spam people. That's a really good one. Don't spam people. Honor the do not call list, right? That we've got to have integrity in what we do. There's plenty of people that you can talk to. But also that's one of the reasons why working within your database is so much better. Because if you've got people that already know you, already have relationships with you, that do not call list doesn't really apply anymore, right? All right, guys, we're going to put a lid on it right here. We're going to wrap up. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks for spending some time today. Hopefully there's some good tidbits in here. This will live up on the YouTube channel probably a little later today or tomorrow. We'll be back here on Friday at 11 o'clock. And I think the Friday topic is going to be a day in the life of a realtor. What does it look like, right? How do they spend their time? And so I think it's going to be really informative. So come on back and join us then.